So someone asked me about passes for lighting inside of vray recently. So I wanted to do a little kind of quick breakdown on a few things that might be kind of useful. It'll be kind of useful for junior compositors as well that are kind of unsure about how to kind of break apart 3D renders and then recombine them inside of Nuke. We've got a kind of simple scene inside of vray here. We just have a couple of it's kind of solid objects, and then we have one glass object as well. The theory with lighting inside of vray, let's go over to the lighting pass here for a second, is the lighting passes that you get out of vray are kind of a combination of two things. You've got the color of the actual object, and then you have the amount of light that falls on top of them as well. Specifically, Pete was asking me about kind of shadow passes and things like that inside of vray, and like in a way inside of vray, there kind of isn't really a shadow pass as such. You can get out shadow information from it, but it's maybe not really all that useful. So I'm gonna kind of look at doing things a slightly different way. Just out of interest, there is actually a shadow pass in vray, which looks like this, and it could be kind of handy as some sort of mask to use inside in Photoshop. You'd be able to use the brightness of this to maybe kind of affect your passes afterwards, but it's probably not really the most useful information in the world. So we're going back into our lighting pass. So the theory with vray anyway is that you would kind of start off with kind of a black scene, and then the strength of the light that's hitting things would kind of gradually raise up the brightness of everything, rather than you kind of starting off with a bright scene and then it kind of laying shadow over the top of that. So we'll hop into Nuke and have a look at some of the information. So same render here. I've got three kind of different methods of kind of breaking apart and recombining the render here, and each of them is going to offer you kind of a bit more flexibility for kind of doing a tiny bit more work. First one here, again, same main render. What I've got is I've got a series of 5 shuffles here for all of the different bits of kind of light that come out of vray, or each of the different kind of little bits of passes. So we'll start off with the first one here. I think is my global illumination. Yeah, it is. So actually we'll go over to the lighting pass first of all. Okay, so you'll kind of notice in here that we've got color data in here. So we've actually got the color of the red teapot, and we also have kind of lighting information as well. So again, vray starts off with the color of the objects within the scene, and then kind of uses the lighting to gradually kind of brighten things up. There's kind of no such thing as shadow as such. This shadow that we're kind of looking at here is kind of more the bit that the sunlight in the scene can't actually kind of get to, because it's being blocked by this teapot here. So it's what we would kind of consider a shadow, but in vray terms, this is just the bit that this kind of warmer light didn't actually kind of see. We've got the same thing for our global illumination pass as well. In terms of the kind of the names of things, global illumination is all of the kind of the bounce light within the scene, and then the lighting pass, which is this one here, is all of the kind of direct light within the scene. So you're going to get direct, and then you're going to get indirect for those for the different parts of light from vray. Then the other passes that we have here is we just have the reflections, we have the refractions, because this thing here is glass, and then we just have some specular highlights as well. The reflection and the specular are kind of two different parts of the kind of the highlights within your scene, and depending on how kind of blurry you make the reflections within vray, you mightn't always get any information within the specular pass. If you've got something that's really kind of sharp with the reflections, it doesn't tend to have any of these little kind of pingy highlights in it, so you're going to get no information within the specular pass. So you shouldn't kind of expect them by default. So again, if we want to get from this from our individual passes back to this kind of main render, the good thing is with the kind of the standard kind of break apart within Nuke and vray, it's really easy. Literally all you're going to do is you're going to start from your probably from your global illumination or your kind of like bounce lighting pass first of all. Then you're going to get your lighting pass and you're just going to do a merge with those, and you're just going to do a simple plus. So it's kind of like maths at this stage really. It's kind of like 1 and 1 equals the combination of these two here anyway. So you're going from that up to that. So already this kind of looks like our main render. There's a couple of extra bits of brightnesses, but you kind of see the two of them are coming together. So now we just add on the extra kind of like the 3 other bits of our scene. So we're going to go from this, we're going to add on our reflections over the top of that. So we're going to go from here up to here. So you can see it getting a bit brighter again. This has got a lot more stuff in it. Then we're going to add in our refractions, I think. Yeah, cool. Okay, so that looks like glass again. And then we're going to add in our specular over the top of that. So that's kind of the the simple recombine within vray. The issue that we have here is that we don't really have a huge amount of flexibility within this version of the recombine. If we try to do any kind of adjustment to either the light or the color of anything within the scene, our problem that we have with these lighting passes here, and I think Pete, this is probably the issue that you're getting, or the thing that you're looking for. The problem with the lighting pass here is that we've got lighting information and we also have color information in here at the same time. So say for example, the sunlight that's hitting the scene here is kind of like a little bit orangey, a little bit kind of warm, and our teapot is also red as well. So say for example we wanted to make this teapot a totally and utterly different color, but we wanted to keep kind of like the warmth of the sun here. Our issue is that we don't have the option of being able to kind of tweak those two things separately. Again, because of the fact that the lighting pass in vray, the simple versions of them, they are a combination of both the color of the object and the light at the same time. So you don't get the option of being able to tweak those two things separately. So that's a bit of an issue. Thankfully, we can go over to the slightly better version of the recombine. What we can do, actually, we'll pop back into Max for a second and we'll just have a look at some of the other passes. I've got a lot of passes stuck within here, but you can kind of notice that there's a tiny bit of duplication with some of them. Like for example, we have a lighting pass and we also have a raw lighting pass. We have global illumination and we also have raw global illumination as well. So you're going to see that type of thing appearing quite a bit. So if we stick with our lighting pass, but if we change over onto our raw lighting pass piece, this is exactly what you're looking for. So if you go over to that, here we go here. So we've got a pass that is nothing but the intensity of the light hitting the scene. Again, for the raw lighting pass, this is the direct light only, so it's the the light that's coming directly from our sunlight and from our skylight in this case. We also have the raw global illumination, which would be kind of the the bounce light within the scene. And the big difference this time around that compared to what we had before is we don't have the colors of the objects within any of these passes here, so it's literally only kind of the colors of the lights and the intensity of the lights, which is very handy. Okay, so we go back into Nuke. Okay, so here we are. Here we've got a few more kind of bits that we've broken out here. So okay, let's have a look at it. Okay, again, this is our raw version of our GI. We have our raw version of our direct light over here. Now, okay, so with this here, again, lighting in vray is a combination of two things. It's a combination of the light intensity that's hitting something and also the color of the actual objects in the first place. So we're going to introduce a third pass. So the pass in this case is the color pass of the actual object. So if we have a look at it here, this is just the boring red teapot, my grey sphere in the background, the checkerboard, all this type of thing. Kind of annoyingly inside of vray, this is called the diffuse filter pass in vray for 3ds Max. So we just pop back in here for a second. So you got vray diffuse filter. That's all of our color bits and pieces. I'm sure it kind of makes sense as some sort of kind of scientific term when you're kind of looking at the physics of things, but a lot of other people would actually rather it's just called color instead. Probably make an awful lot more sense. So if we go back into Nuke, okay, so say for example if we have something like our direct light. If we want to get from our direct light to our direct light with the color kind of blended into it, which we're going to have to do, we're just going to do something pretty simple. We're going to take the color pass and we're going to take the raw direct light pass, and we're just going to multiply the two of them together. So if we have a look at that, so there we go. So now we have the direct lighting from our render, and if we leave that there, if we go back and if we take a look at our lighting that we had in the simple break apart, and if we kind of toggle between those two inside of a nuke, I'm just kind of toggling between the two of them there, and you can see that there is actually no difference between the two. So this is kind of good anyway. It kind of means that we've kind of remade the direct light within vray, but the big difference is again, we had our issues earlier on that if we wanted to change anything about the renders, we didn't really have a lot of flexibility about it. So say for example, if I wanted to change this red teapot into a green teapot or something like that, the nice thing now is I can go to my color pass, and I've put in a little grade operation here. So if we view that, that's me just kind of tweaking that. I've used another kind of very useful pass from vray called the multi-matte pass, and what that gives me is kind of you can kind of make a lot of masks for yourself inside of 3ds Max, and you can kind of use these just as ways of kind of grabbing objects afterwards when you get into compositing. So you can kind of do a couple of individual tweaks on them. So what I'm doing is I'm kind of just getting a mask for only the teapot there, and I'm going to kind of use that as a mask for my grade here, so that only affects that one thing there. So now if we have that grade on there, and if we add it in, cool. So now we have a green teapot. We have the same lighting as we had before, but now we're able to tweak the color of the teapot without fucking anything else up. And we can toggle that on and off. So this type of thing would be really handy if you're doing kind of like a car configurator, or if you've got a render where you have to have 30 different color variations of something, then this type of thing is going to come in really handy. So the good thing is you get kind of the same benefit with your lighting as well. So say for example, we have our lighting here. If we want to change it, if we want to make it warmer, brighter, darker, or whatever it is, same thing again. We can do grades on that. So here I've just added a bit more warmth into it, and again I'll turn off this green color correction on the teapot for a second, and here we go here. So when we combine the two of those, if I toggle my grade off, it means you can warm up your light. We haven't messed around with the color of this teapot here, but we've been able to affect our lighting separately. So this is just giving you an awful lot more flexibility in the sense. And of course, we've got the same thing with our global illumination or bounce light too. So if we wanted to do a bit of a grade on that, I'm not sure what I did to it here. Does this do anything? I don't think it does anything. If we decide we want to make that a bit kind of more contrasty or something like that, we can gamma it down and gain it up or whatever it is. Do that. Okay. And same thing again, we need to take the intensity of our bounce lighting, and we need to kind of bring in the color of the objects on top of that. So again, it's just simple multiply. And if we want the two of those things together, now we have our final global illumination and our final direct lighting here. So now we get back into a situation like we had before of just having to do a couple of plus operations to be able to bring those things together. So I'll keep my warm grade on the sunlight, and then when we plus those two together, so we get something like this. So if we were to compare our kind of edited version of our lighting with the ones that we had previous, this is what we have here anyway. So we're just getting a bit more flexibility. We're getting a bit more kind of control over things. And then I'm just going to add on the reflections, the refractions, and then the specular over the top of that again, and we can compare the original render to our edited version of it. So you're just getting a few more options on the entire thing here. So the last version of it here that I'm going to look at is I'm gonna take a look at a thing called the light select element within vray. So okay, this is a bit messier looking. Again, the more kind of flexibility and the more control you want, you're going to have to do a tiny bit more work. It's not a lot, but it's probably kind of worth doing. So one issue that we have with our direct light pass here is the lighting pass and the direct the lighting pass and the raw lighting pass in vray. They give you the direct light for absolutely every single light within your scene, all in one go, all in one pass. So safer again, kind of it's similar to how I want to be able to affect like the color of my objects and the color of the lights separately. So say if I want to go a bit further with my direct lighting, like if I want to be able to kind of tweak the color of the sunlight completely and utterly separately from the color of the skylight, then with the direct with the lighting and with the raw lighting passes, again, because all of the lights are combined into one render, you don't have that flexibility. So thankfully we have a third and kind of final way of getting lights out, and I'm going to pop back into vray for a second, or sorry, 3ds Max. We have the light select pass. So in my 3D scene here anyway, I just have two lights. I've got like a sunlight and I have a little kind of dome light here. And what this light select pass lets you do is it's kind of the same thing as the lighting pass. The only kind of major difference with it is rather than you getting all of the lights in one go, it just gives you a list down the bottom here, so you can pick which lights in the scene you actually kind of want, in each of these individual passes. So I've got a sunlight pass and I've got a skylight pass. So this is going to give me kind of a tiny bit more flexibility. So the other control that you get with the light select pass is you've got a few different kind of modes which will let you choose kind of what type of information vray is going to give you with the pass. You kind of have like three different bits of information that you can get out from it. You can get the raw light from the light, which is the thing that I'm going to use, which again is only the intensity of that particular light. You have a diffuse version of the pass, and the diffuse version is the intensity of the light, but also the color of the objects within your scene. So that'd be very similar to the lighting pass that we got at the very start. You have a specular version of the pass, which only gives you kind of the specular highlights from that particular light. And then finally you have the normal version of the pass, which gives you all three of these things combined at the same time. So that's kind of like all of the information that you can get from the light. Typically I'll use either diffuse or raw. I'm going to leave it on raw in this case, because if I'm adjusting my lighting, I kind of don't really want all the little kind of pingy highlights in on top of it as well. Typically when I'm kind of working with compositors on VFX things, if there's not too many lights within the scene, I'll give them a light select element for each of the lights within it. I don't do the same thing for speculars, because I'm kind of lazy, and you don't want to be giving someone a million passes. One thing I've noticed that you can add in as many lights as you want within this list here. So, like if you have a load of green lights and a load of red lights within your scene, you might have like one light select pass for all the green, one light select for all of the red. So you can group stuff together just to cut down on the amount of passes that you're going to be putting out. Your render doesn't get slower for any of these things being added in, really. The only thing that's going to happen is you're just going to have more image sequences out on disk, and you're going to have more stuff to deal with inside of Nuke. So maybe it's kind of annoying from that point of view. Okay, we'll pop back inside of Nuke. Okay, my light select recombine here. Okay, so I just have a couple, rather than having kind of like one lighting pass, now I have two. So I've got my direct light sky, and I have my direct light sun. So the direct light sun is probably kind of pretty interesting looking anyway, because you can really clearly see that it's only the energy coming from the sun and absolutely nothing else. Previously you were getting the light from the skylight over this side here as well, but here we've been able to kind of separate everything out. Let's have a look at our GI pass again for a second. One thing to note is at the minute you can't get a GI pass for individual lights within vray, and I say you can't get that yet because they are going to work on that. I think they might have it. They probably have something kind of working, but it's not kind of released yet anyway. You're going to be able to get kind of like the bounce light from individual lights as well, so that'll give you pretty much every single aspect of control. Okay, so I have my my raw GI, and I'm going to multiply that in with the color of everything. So okay, I've done the same kind of green tweak on the teapot there. I'm actually going to turn that off for a second. So again, raw GI Pete, again, that's part of the pass that you want. Color multiplied on top of that. So we're gonna do the same thing here with the sky and with the sun passes. So with our direct light passes. So again, if you kind of find you want to do a little bit of a tweak on the color or on the brightness of any of these passes, here I've just kind of made it a bit more kind of purpley. You can do that with your grade. So again, when you're happy with the grades that you have on something, you just have to kind of again multiply in the color of the objects on top of that. And we'll do the same thing with the direct sunlight here. I don't know what I've done. Okay, so I've made that more yellowy. What we do, we'll make it more reddish or something like that, won't we? Okay, yeah, do something like that just so it's ugly. So same thing. You have your light. You're going to add in the color on top of that, and same thing. We're just going to end up kind of plussing all of these things together. So you're going to take your GI at the start, then we're going to plus on our new skylight over the top of that, the direct light from the sky. We're going to plus over the direct light from the sun. We're going to plus over our reflections, our refractions, and then our specular as well. And again, you can kind of compare that to the original render. So this is kind of like what compositors are going to do afterwards. They're going to take your original render and they're just going to kind of fiddle around with the levels of all of the various different things, like the levels and the colors. Like if we were trying to match this render to some sort of kind of 3D some sort of like live action scene, light has color to it. So I might find my render the kind of the color of the light coming from the sky that we'd see in the shadows here. It mightn't be the same color as what they have in their live action footage. So they might want to just do kind of a little bit of a grade on that. Like say for example it's too blue and it needs to be a bit more kind of green. Then the good thing is because they've got all this stuff separated out, they can literally just kind of swing one thing, and it's only really affecting the shadows, like that shadow color there. It's not affecting too much else within the scene, which is great. This is the type of thing that they're going to be kind of doing typically. They might want to put a bit more kind of, I don't know, saturation into the into the bounce light or something like that. But it just gives you kind of control over all these things here, so we can kind of make the bounce light a bit richer or whatever it is. And the nice thing is, you can start tweaking all these things without kind of without messing up too many other elements of the scene. So again, here I'm kind of adjusting and kind of balancing the lighting of absolutely everything without kind of mucking everything else up. If we kind of decide we want to have like a bit more kind of brightness in this thing here, cool. We can just we can go in and kind of gain that up or gamma it up or whatever we want to do, so we can lift all of those things really easily. So this just gives you a lot of flexibility afterwards, and you can do kind of ugly things, like you can make that teapot green. Now, one thing of note that's happening here is there's part of the red of the teapot there is actually in the reflections. So that's why that's kind of leaving a bit of kind of green behind in it. So what I'd actually have to do is I'd have to get the same grade, and I'd have to do the same kind of thing to the reflections as well. So let's actually do that there. I'm going to feed the mask input of that back into my little kind of matte thing here, and hopefully put that in there, so that goes from being a red reflection teapot into a green reflection teapot. This could look horrible, but anyway, actually it's not bad. It's maybe a bit too bright, but whatever. So this is the light select version of it, which I think is kind of it's the one that I'd use most often at this stage, because a lot of the scenes that I get to do are they don't necessarily have a lot of lights within them, so it's not difficult to kind of put out each of these light select paths, and it gives the comper an awful lot of options to mess around with things afterwards. So it's a very, very flexible way to work. But yes, the lovely Mr. Pete. You're going to be looking at the two kind of raw versions of the lighting passes. I think they're probably going to be the things that you kind of want to work with. I'm not sure about the shadow pass. Again, I don't really use it all that often, so I'd have to chat to you a bit more about what needs that has to fulfill for you. But hopefully, with the two kind of raw lighting and raw GI pass, and then the diffuse filter pass, you should be able to get kind of everything you want out of it. But that's about that. Hopefully, it's helpful for a few people anyway. Cheers. Bye.